Welcome back to Adventures with Rosie, and welcome to part 2 of our Stewart Island adventure. Quick recap on the last episode.
Yep, so we took the ferry across to Oban Island, spent the day doing all the tracks around the island.
Yep.
The kids were absolute champions. We saw some really cool birds.
Saw some awesome birds.
Yeah,
we also gave you a bit of a tour of our accommodation, where we're staying, our car that we've got for the 4 days we're here. Now today we've woken up to rain, and it's actually bucketing down now as soon as I started talking. So we're going to go to town. We're going to show you a bit more of town. There's a museum, cinema as well, that shows a 40-minute movie apparently about the area, information centre. So we'll have a look around town, and then we're hoping for a walk this afternoon. Who knows? Yeah, hopefully. So yeah, we'll show you around town first. Alright, so this is the main street behind me. A couple of little cafes, cool little eatery here, some little kind of nice little shops as well. But that's pretty much it. There's a hotel down the end as well, and a 4 square around the corner. But this is Oban, or I think that's how you pronounce it, which is the main sort of town. I guess the only town really in Stewart Island here. It's got a massive museum though, which is cool. So we're going to check that out, and then dock. Department of Conservation Visitor Centre there, and back over this way as well you've got a cinema in that corrugated iron building. So yeah, we'll check out the museum. We're going to do all the inside stuff today, as it's so grey and gloomy, as you can see, and freezing cold. Right out on the point behind me there is a lighthouse we want to go out on a walk to. Ackers Point it's called. You drive around a gravel road and then I think an hour and a half walk out to a lighthouse. So we'll try and do that after lunch. I'll show you the foreshore and stuff as well in a sec. Alright, so this is the Stewart Island foreshore. There's the ferry terminal back there. That's where the ferry dropped us off. 4 square as well, and where we just were down the street was this main street here. So Stewart Island has a population of just 400 people. Now, to put that into perspective with the Kiwi, our national bird here in New Zealand, there are 13,000 Kiwi on this island alone, and there's a whole cluster of islands here. So there's way more wildlife and bird life here than there is humans, which is pretty cool. The town, most people are on tank water here. Some people have bore water, and the power here doesn't come from the mainland. They actually have a diesel generator that produces the power for this town, and the company that makes that power charge 4 times the national average for power here on Stewart Island. So they're pretty kind of conscientious, I guess, about the water you consume when you're in the motel, and also how much power you consume, because 4 times the average they're paying for power here. Well, we decided against the cinema because the kids couldn't sit still for it was about 6-minute video about the local area in that museum. So yeah, we thought 40 minutes in the cinema in the morning before they've been out and had a run around, probably not a good idea. One thing we did see while we were in the museum though was that there are some gardens up here. Moana gardens, I think they're called. Over on Oban Island, where we were in the last video, there was a man who lived over there who was a botanist, and I think there's a few of them in the end, but there's some sort of orchids and some other plants that they were kind of studying over there on Oban Island, and they set up some gardens here in town showcasing a bunch of, you know, native trees and stuff like that. So yeah, we'll let the kids have a run around. Yeah, you want to run around? Yeah. There's a nice observation deck in these gardens looking back over the sort of main bay. There's the wharf in behind me there, where the ferry drops you off, and the kind of town's just around the corner there. Pretty nice. If you want to see this place on a sunny day, definitely go back and watch that first video if you haven't. It was a lot nicer weather yesterday and the day before. So yeah, hopefully the sun comes out sometime. That museum as well was pretty decent, pretty well worth visiting. There's a lot of history here for both whaling, tourism, and then obviously there was the early Māori that settled here as well. It's quite funny, they talk a bit in the history about how there were a lot of Māori women here and not a lot of men. A lot of the men died fishing, and in like tribal wars and stuff as well. So a lot of the European whalers married the Māori woman, and then they kind of set up this, well, you know, what we see today basically. But yeah, well worth visiting. Lots of old bits of history, you know, physical bits of history. And yeah, it was $10 an adult and the kids were free. I think it's the same price as well for the cinema as well, $10 an adult. Well, it doesn't look like this weather's going to get any better, so we've come out for a walk. We're going to do the Ackers Point walk. Mr. Acker, I think that's how you pronounce it, he was a shipwright, I think, here, built ships. There's a point and a lighthouse out here dedicated to him. It's also a Kiwi Guardian post for the kids. So yeah, about an hour return walk. Yeah, might as well walk, eh? It's cold, and there's not heaps of indoor activities to do here on Stewart Island. It's not like you can just sit in a cafe as well and you know, have a coffee. The cafes are kind of takeaway only and pretty small, so you could go to the pub, I suppose, if you didn't have kids. But that's about it. So yep, we'll put our jackets on, go for a walk. So behind me is Harold's Bay. They used to build ships here, and there's actually remnants down there of an old ramp where they would have pulled ships out of the water. And Mr. Acker lived here with his Māori wife in this old stone cottage, which is still here, which is pretty amazing. It just started raining. He lived in this stone cottage and worked on boats. He had 9 children, so there were 11 people living in this cottage. Apparently the bunks were 5 high, so 5 stories of bunks for the 9 children. Pretty crazy, but yeah, it's been preserved. You can go in here. This is on private land, so you do kind of just walk down here and you can't sort of wander off the track. But yeah, Harold's Bay, and we're going to walk further out there to the point. There's a lighthouse and I think a memorial to Mr. Acker himself as well. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Right, let's have a look in his house. Well, Harvey's happy. He found another Kiwi Guardian post. You've probably heard me mention that many a times throughout the year's vlogs, but they are basically a Department of Conservation thing that's sponsored by Toyota here, and you find a code on a post and you enter that code and they send you out a wooden medal, to which Harvey probably has 30 or 40 of them now, which is pretty cool. They're all over New Zealand, they're free to do, so it's kind of cool for the kids to collect them. Each little medal is unique.
You just take a picture of it, adults, and then you just send it to a company, and then they'll send you out a medal with some rope and you'll hang it.
Some of those codes are in, those posts are in really like difficult places for us. Like most of them are just on walks like this, so I think there's been a couple behind like in a zoo or whatever, but there's some like around the Milford area that were like on the Rootburn track, I think, or the Kepler track, like one of those great walks in New Zealand. One of them had one of those codes, so yeah, we had big dreams of ticking off the entire list of New Zealand, getting all the medals, but yeah, I don't think it'll happen. There was one on Oban Island yesterday as well, or in the last week's video. So yeah, a couple for this little trip.
Seeing that boat bounce around out there is giving me flashbacks of the other day. The sea looks pretty calm today, but it still bounces around.
Just like this.
Yeah, so if you missed the last video, we didn't actually film the ferry crossing over because the girls were too sick. 2 girls throwing up all over us. It was so choppy and bouncy. I felt so ill, so did Chelsea. Harvey was right on the limit of throwing up, so...
Bouncing out of our seats, eh?
Yeah, we're literally like holding onto our seats, but we are dreading the trip back when we leave. So Ackers Point here is pretty famous for its mutton birds and for penguins, the small blue-eyed penguin, I think. And there are hundreds of these burrows throughout this whole walk. It's quite cool. There's penguin poo all over the path, so they must have been here recently. But yeah, pretty amazing. Apparently they used to get thousands of mutton birds here in the season. It's a very short season for mutton birds, but they do so by putting their hand in the hole and just pulling a bird out, and then they would have stacks of birds. The guys were saying in the video we watched at the museum that they might catch like 200 or 300 birds a day per person. for a short window because the birds then migrate north. But yeah, pretty amazing. You're not allowed to actually stray from the track here because obviously this is pretty valuable landscape to the penguins and the birds. Alright, so this is the famous chain link anchor chain sculpture here in Lee Bay. We actually came out here the other day and somehow missed this sculpture, which is, I'm not sure how. But basically there's another sculpture like this on the bottom of the South Island in Bluff, and the idea being that the two are linked under the Fovo Strait. And the legend of Maui, where he fished up the North Island, the South Island was his waka. He fished up the North Island and the North Island was pulling him too fast, so he threw out his anchor, which was Stewart Island, and this is why they're linked. It's kind of cool. I like to think as well that this sculpture goes all the way under the ocean and out the other side into our Bluff. Someone actually shot at it as well. There's a big gun hole, a bullet hole in the top, a dent, where when it was first installed, some people that live here didn't really like it, so they shot at it. There's a little plaque here with some information as well, and it suggests as well that it's also symbolises the link between this Stewart Island and the South Island. One thing we did read in the museum is that sometimes Stewart Island gets left out of the New Zealand, the overall sort of, people say I'm going to walk from the top of New Zealand to the bottom, but they'll walk from Cape Reinga down to Bluff, but they won't go over to Stewart Island. Or people will say I'm going to bike in New Zealand, but they only go as far as the bottom of the South Island. So yeah, apparently they feel a bit left out sometimes. In the museum there was an old bike where the guy biked, in 16 days he biked from the very top of the North Island down to Stewart Island, and then biked all around Stewart Island around its 28 or so kilometres of road, just to kind of prove that, hey, Stewart Island's down on the map. He did all the roads in Stewart Island. Right, so we've woken up to a cracking day today, but it's our last day. Yeah. But Chelsea got a text this morning from the lady who kind of manages or looks after the place we're staying, and she said you don't have to check out until midday and you can use the car up until the ferry leaves, which is pretty cool of her, eh? Yeah,
it's not a standard thing, it just depends on when the next guests are coming through to give them time to clean it and stuff.
But she knew we had a 3 o'clock ferry and checkout's normally at 10, so she said take your time checking out and use the car and then drop it back just before the ferry. So pretty awesome. So we've come to the bathing beach, they call it the bathing beach here in Stewart Island. Look at that behind me. I think we'll just chill out here. We've got our lunch, plenty to explore, kids are going to have a swim. Save the best for last. Pop round the corner and you're on another beach. Pretty amazing. Got this place to myself as well. We're kind of dreading the ferry ride back today a little bit. The sea is looking a lot better. Apparently it's a bit calmer out there. So yeah, hopefully we're alright. I can't remember the last time I felt that sick as I did on the way over here on the boat. Plus with the girls throwing up, it wasn't great. So we've been dreading it. We even went as far as looking at flights back, which I think are around about $200 a person. And we'd already paid for the ferry tickets. I didn't actually mention in the first video, but the ferry itself, there's only one company that takes you over here, and the ferries go a few times a day. It is, what was it? I think it's $80 each way per adult, which is crazy for an hour trip. So it's quite expensive to come out here. You're looking at, you know, for two of us, 320 bucks of ferry rides just to get out here, just for the privilege of throwing up on the ferry. Kids were free, thankfully, but yeah, it is a little bit expensive to catch the ferry out here and you don't have many alternatives. Well, thank you for watching our little two-parter there on Stewart Island. Yeah. Do you recommend it?
Yes, highly recommend it. Definitely go for a couple of days as well. You want to spend like a good day out on Oban Island.
Yeah.
You can do the walking track in about an hour and a half with no stopping for the whole island, but you want to be stopping. There's so many cool birds around.
Yeah,
Take it slow.
I think it's pretty tempting just to go out there for a day trip, but yeah, if you can have a night, because it'd be good to have. Unless I guess you could go out really early, but then you got to get over to the Over Island Ferry, which you probably got to walk to, because it doesn't leave from the same spot. It leaves from a little bay across the island. So yeah, if you can go for a couple of days, it's awesome. It's so nice there. And
you can go out in the evening as well, once it gets dark, and go bird
spotting. Spot the Kiwi.
Yeah.
There's also like snorkeling and stuff around Over Island, which looks pretty cool, and fishing and that sort of thing. So plenty to do there.
Yeah.
So where to from here?
Well, we are going to head to Invercargill, yeah. We've got a few days of activities planned there.
Yep.
And then we start making our way back up the country.
Yeah, we've got probably a weekend in Invercargill, and then I'm going shark cage diving, which is pretty exciting next weekend. And then we're not sure from there, so yeah, stay tuned. We've got tons coming up, and you'll get to see me swim with great white sharks, hopefully.
Yeah.
So I say swim, in a cage. Thanks for watching.
Yeah, see ya.
See ya.